Thousands of protesters have marched through Tbilisi to mark a year of protests in the Georgian capital. The demonstrations began last year when the government halted talks on joining the European Union. Crowds poured onto the streets and gathered outside parliament, leading to clashes with police. Authorities responded by cracking down on public assembly and restricting rights groups and independent media. The pro-EU rallies have since been scaled back, but still take place every day. Georgia's President Mikheil Kavelashvili has now suggested a willingness for his country to join the EU, but only under certain conditions.
By
2030, Georgia will be ready to join the EU. But right now, we don't know whether the EU's view will change or stay the same. They don't accept the outcome of last year's election. They're applying double standards. Dialogue is the key, but they're not engaging in dialogue with us. Sometimes they recognize this government, and sometimes they don't. It's absurd.
DW correspondent Juri Rescheto is in Georgia, where he spoke to opposition activist David Chkeidze in a DW exclusive interview.
David, for a year now, the opposition, you personally, are fighting for or against what you call anti-European and pro-Russian course of your government. What don't you like exactly?
We don't like that the regime started anti-Western propaganda. It's some kind of a hysterical anti-Western propaganda in the country. They halted the beginning of the negotiation process of joining the European Union, and since then, for almost a year, they have been violating the civil rights, and the injustice become the main course of the government. So what we have to do other than to fight?
Your critics say, yes, we are for Europe, we are for European Union, but some values, European so-called values, they say, are not acceptable for Georgia because it is a conservative country, like protection of minorities, national minorities, sexual minorities. Are they right?
No, this is absolute speculation of the Georgian values, because Georgia has been the part of the European civilization since the antique times. So even now, there has never been such opposition to the European values and to the tolerance. Tolerance is within the Georgian culture, within the Georgian society for centuries.
So your country isn't divided, isn't split in rural areas, let's say, in big cities, more traditional and more liberal?
No, it has never been divided. This is all propaganda and some kind of provocation based on the speculation by the government, which is very much Russian style, because Georgian society has never been intolerant towards the minorities, whether it is religious, sexual or ethnic.
So your country is united, you say. How united is the opposition? Does the opposition speak with one voice? Is it strong enough to fight against the course of the government?
On the core values, not only opposition, but 80% of the society is united. Some express their position more bravely, others less bravely. Some are vocal, the others are less, but the society, 80% of the Georgian society is conventional about the European values and about the future, European future, which itself encompasses all those values and all those principles we consider as European and national Georgian.
The ruling Georgian Dream Party says street protests do not achieve anything. It's better to negotiate, to find compromises in the parliament. Is it possible?
No, the regime, I don't call it, it's just a ruling party which declared that they are halting the accession negotiation process with the European Union. So I don't call it anymore the government, because the uniparty, some kind of authoritarianism which is getting closer and closer towards the dictatorship, as all the political leaders are imprisoned, and there is no no such thing as negotiating with the civil society, with the non-governmental organizations, or with political parties. It is a very tough authoritarian agenda which the ruling party is taking now. So there is no space for negotiations with the government. The government itself denied itself from the negotiating process.
Let's bring in DW's Juri Rescheto, who's still in Georgia and joining us. Juri, thousands of pro-EU Georgians took to the streets of Tbilisi on Friday. I would love to know if the protests have continued into the weekend.
Well, right now it's quiet here. Life is going on. We'll see what's going to happen tonight. But last night's protest was the biggest in weeks. Rustaveli Avenue, the main street right behind me, was completely blocked. People marched to Beethoven's Ode to Joy, the EU anthem, which has basically become the protesting cry for the opposition and its fight against what it sees as the government's anti-European stance. Organizers claim 30,000 showed up. We can't confirm that, but there were definitely a few thousand. A decent crowd, though far smaller than a year ago. Many older folks, especially those over 50, are feeling let down and frustrated, pulling back, giving up on street protests.
Now, the opposition claims that Georgia is becoming more and more like Russia politically. What's your analysis on that?
Well, the government strongly denies being pro-Russia. Yesterday, I spoke with Georgian President Mikheil Kavelashvili. He told me there is no closeness to the Kremlin and pointed out that Georgia doesn't even have diplomatic ties with Russia. Here's what he said. Let's have a listen.
There has to be something that proves we have any connection with the Russian government.
But the opposition argues that Georgian politics are starting to look a lot like Moscow's, especially when it comes to cracking down on critical-minded people. Several opposition leaders have already been arrested, and the country's three biggest opposition parties, main opposition parties, are on the verge of being banned altogether.
Now, protests have been ongoing for 1 year now. Give us a sense of whether this momentum will carry forward and also what kind of support the political opposition has.
Well, I think the protests will continue for a while. They could flare up again if the three opposition parties, as I said, are definitely banned. The Supreme Court will decide on this in the next few days. But overall, the weather is getting colder outside and the risks for the opposition are getting higher to be arrested. As for your question of external support, this is increasingly viewed as, look, interference in domestic politics. That's why some political foundations have been labeled so-called foreign agents. But despite that, many believe Georgia would join the European Union, and also the president shares that ambition. When I asked him yesterday when Georgia could join the EU, he said 2030. But under certain conditions. First and foremost, he said that the EU recognizes his government as legitimate and, as he put it, finally start a dialogue which isn't taking place now.
DW's Juri Rescheto in Tbilisi, thank you.